we have already got some interesting views, which is about how can organizations, running on SAP plan their journey to cloud. Some inputs from your side, sir. You are not audible, Mr. Atul. If you can unmute your device. Yeah, I can hear you now, please.
Great. So hi, good evening to all present, and thanks to Dun & Bradstreet for having me here today. So well, let me just quickly give you a persona of an SAP user in our enterprise, or for that matter, any enterprise. Operating SAP from head office or any one of our manufacturing sites, branches or depots. For these users, it does not really matter where the data center is located on, or rather who's maintaining it. Okay. As long as the system's availability, its performance, the required functionality, and the data integrity is ensured. So nobody bothers. Okay. And like if we talk about an on-premise or a cloud-based system, ERP system, in this case, we are talking about S4HANA. It typically serves the same business purpose, that of capturing and storing information about the mapped business transactions. That's the core. Okay. Now, having said that, on a lighter note, I also wish that we would have migrated to S4HANA now, considering Shashi's offer to fund the migration on the Google platform. And I think it's an envious situation, because we did our S4HANA migration back in February 2019. So be it. But we'll keep this offer in mind. And on this question of the plan, I think much has been spoken by the earlier speakers. But let me tell you, first of all, we also need to look at how do we to get our organization buy-in for moving into the cloud, because it's not just about the technology, it's also about the culture of the organization and the willingness to lift and shift the organization's IP, the intellectual property, their complete set of business transaction system over to the cloud. So we'll have to create a buy-in. That's the first thing. Then certainly you'll have to look at a SAP certified CSP, a cloud service provider. Look at the relative strengths, and also you'll have to look at the relative merits of whether you want to go for an infrastructure as a service, you want to go for a PAAS model, or you want to go for a SaaS offering. And each one has its own plus and minuses. Okay. Now, then we have KPMG also on the panel, so we'll also have to factor that we'll have to choose a implementation partner who's knowledgeable and experienced in the domain or in the vertical wherein you are serving. So that's also important. And you need to look at some referenceable customers to get their first-hand feedback about the partner. So, and simultaneously, you need to onboard your internal team with defined roles and responsibilities. That's another thing which you need to do. Then I think if you were to choose a SaaS model, the important thing which you need to do is to evaluate a fit to standard analysis. You do a fit to standard analysis, because in a typical SaaS model, much of it would be a standard SAP offering, which will be, and you will have to fit your processes in that setup. So that's something which you'll have to do. You'll have to maybe create a test scripts of what are the critical transactions processes and outputs expected with some process diagrams. So I think these are some of those typical action items which you do. Then certainly you'll have to do an infra sizing. It could be a virtualized cluster or a bare metal. You'll have to define, and then the security features which you want to build in, so that you have the data protected while it is at rest or while it is in flight, so to say. So I think these are an important thing when you're talking about a cloud offering is to figure out the speed and ease of provisioning, deprovisioning, compute, and capacity in day-to-day operations, because that will only allow you to get the agility and also the cost optimization measures in place if you are able to do that optimally. And finally, you also have to look at the SLAs based on the support service offerings and their relative pricings. What are options are available for the support offerings which are there, the SLAs. And of course, then you'll have to look at the data migration plans and identify tools to automate it as much. So I think these are the broad contours of aspects and the planning points which a organization has to factor while they plan their journey to the cloud.
Okay, so while you extensively spoke about factors such as technical specifications and role of partner and other things, will
Yeah.
you like to add quickly in terms of what could be some of the key elements to look at, or do you think this is what is the broader aspect, or something else can also be considered here in terms of the
In
elements?
this, you want me to zoom into a partner's role or about the
No,
organization's role?
I am generally broadly talking about key elements to consider while migrating SAP on cloud. What
No,
could be those elements?
as I said that no, besides this, what will also come into play is that no, you'll have to create a cross-functional team to plan for the execution of change management required during the migration. You'll have to factor the end user training with a very extensive feedback mechanism at every stage during the project, so that no, you do not end up showcasing or creating something which was not no thought through. So that's something which was there. In our case, like I give you an example, while our S4 HANA migration was necessitated because of a hardware refresh which was due. So we'll also have to figure out that no, what is the drive? Why are we moving on to the cloud? So and as some of the speakers, one of the speakers also mentioned that no, we'll also have to factor that no, that ultimately, if you were to have a vision about setting up maybe the IoT kind of solutions, big data analytics kind of solutions, you would have to look at cloud seriously, because that will only make the system more open, more interoperable. And if you were to confine it to on-prem, you are actually limiting the feature functionality and also the possibility to scale at a later period. I think that will also become an issue later.
Okay, thank you for that. I mean, you have given the entire, I think you have covered kind of almost every aspect that needs to be looked at. Now I'll
Yeah.
quickly move to Mr. Gopi and like to get his views on an interesting question, which is why does SAP run best on cloud? What are the benefits? Mr. Gopi, if you can help us understand this.
Yeah. See, nowadays you cannot, escape, or you cannot go away without cloud now. That is the situation, because we like it or not, either public cloud or private cloud or hybrid cloud, no matter, but cloud is there. I can put it in another way. Imagine that cloud as a pant. We are wearing a shirt pant, right? It's a pant. We cannot determine it that, okay, now we've got 32 size pant, so I'm going to buy 32 size pant. It never works for me. I may need 40 or 38. So it is important to understand the requirement very clearly and understand the organization, culture, the way it operates, and business requirement, and overall whatever previous already they explained very clearly. So when we are very clear on that, just alter it and add it and put it in a way whichever it suits you. Maybe 32. Luckily, you may fit into that, but it's not necessarily. So that is another one. And largely, a lot of people getting into certain different issues. For example, why we are talking about partner here, because you need a very clear eye on what is happening. It is like we are went to abroad and coming back home, we may see things differently. I will ask you one simple question. We always wear a lot of Roman dialer watches in my life, before. Now Apple and everything. Before, we normally wear a Roman dialer largely, more than large percentage. Are you aware that what is the number 4 look like in Roman dialer?
Number 4 in Roman dialer.
Roman dialer in your watch, in wristwatch.
I and B is what I would put it.
That's what everyone will guess. But actually, in your wristwatch, it will say 1111. 4 ones will be there.
Okay.
Even though we've seen it from the childhood, 99% of the people miss it. So we may think we know, but actually we don't know exactly what is there. So even though we know environment better, so it is important, bring the external view. But only in UK, London, the Celestial view, there only you have find IV. That's for different reasons. So the point I'm trying to make it is important to understand that very clearly. And just before also I explained, due to whatever the reason, now who are moved to cloud, now they paid off in the COVID situations, because they no need to worry so many VPN, Citrix, this, that. moving, of course, end user, there is a different, if you don't have a proper plan, you will go in chaos. But it's happening in a much better, neat way. Of course, there is a lot of pros and cons on that. It's case to case varies, but my advice is wear pants. That's what the point.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for taking me out of Commonwealth stigma. That was insightful. Okay, so I'll move to Mr. Jayanta and like to get his views on the same question. Why does SAP run best on cloud and what are the benefits? Mr. Jayanta, if you can hear me and reply to my question.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, sir, I can. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so, the basic, fundamental answers have already been spoken now. I don't have to repeat the agility, the other standard interfacing and the tools and techniques available for all the integration, which are no-brainers. But coming back to the basic advantage of scaling, in a dynamic environment, you also get the comfort being at the helm of controlling the technology. You get the benefits of provisioning. You also have these business pressure all the time for certain growth and certain new provisioning. You have the time pressure of in a traditional on-prem provisioning habits. You have those lags, those delays in procurement and in installation and provisioning. So cloud gives you that fantastic advantage, confidence, and the comfort of provisioning. And that way, you also are able to address the time lag. You are able to address the immediate provisioning. Also addresses the demand. So there's no this thing in the that business management, and also you have the clear picture of coming back again to our comfort areas, SAP, where we always have the right sizing problem. So when you start, you probably are able to fit into the right size, but as you go, the right sizing is a big problem. Any traditional upgrade, any traditional refresh doesn't get you to the accurate sizing area. So cloud gives you that agility, that flexibility, where adjust to the right size. And today, all the CSVs help you with the near accurate fitment to the SAPs, the sizing unit of today's SAP, and that SAPs are absolutely matched by all the known providers. All the partners are quite capable of matching these SAPs. They were able to fit into that. So that's about the sizing, the fitment, the agility, the scaling, all that is there. And then coming to the day-to-day issue is the management. The clear advantage is there in management today, not only for single cloud, there are multi-cloud management dashboards. So you have not only the monitoring and controls are there, but also you control the billing from the dashboards. So you have a wonderful working partner in the form of cloud, which actually offers you the right solution at the right place with the right fitment, right sizing, and the right operating comfort.
Absolutely.
So that's why all of us have the comfort in managing our infrastructure on cloud, our applications on cloud.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Now I'll bring Mr. Srinivasan and like to get his view on something which is being discussed a lot. And it all started with the statement that data is the new oil, but I think we have come a long way since then because now analytics has also joined the race, and together they are trying to provide a lot of insights. So, Mr. Srinivasan, to get your views on how can deploying applications on cloud help in aggregating data from various sources, and also using it through analytical tools which are available, or using analytics to enhance the value from that. So, your views, sir, on this particular question?
Yeah. See, my view is, incidentally, I'm actually a data scientist myself.
Okay.
So, see, as I mentioned, moving on to cloud really, I personally feel, other than your normal transaction processing, the great advantage of moving on to cloud will be the integration with your big data systems, even your IoT. For example, you take the IoT, it's data mining. Okay, if you
Right.
see most of the, I think all the, I cannot see a IoT partner or IoT platform which is on premise. So
Right.
almost everything is on cloud only. It's very, I think maybe 4-5 years down the line, I don't think this on-premise word itself will go off. So when I'll tell you, see, when we are using a on-premise application, collecting the data and sending it back to the application partner, IoT partner who's having an application on the cloud, it was really a cumbersome process, and we need to identify the proper integration between these two. But for example, if I had my applications on the cloud, then integrating with your big data partner is a matter of time actually. So you don't need to do much of a work in that, and it will be a seamless integration because you may be in a different cloud and you may be in a different cloud. But yes, there are multiple ways of integrating both the clouds. So it will be easy for you to integrate and operate with your big data analytical partner when you are on the cloud. Okay. Otherwise, and I'll tell you one more thing. This may be applicable for your SAP for HANA also. See, of late, most of the ERPs, I am not sure how long they are going to continue giving new versions, new releases for on-premise application. Most of the new developments is actually only happening on cloud. And I don't know, the day will come when they will tell this is it. You may have to migrate to cloud by this time. Your extended support will be only till this time, and beyond that you may have to do. And so considering all these things, it will be really better for the organization to start planning your migration on the cloud, and it will save time, and it will also be useful for them to get a better versions and the new versions. And also, as I told you before, almost all application integrators, okay, like your calibration system, for all your manufacturing systems, they all have their tools and applications on cloud. Very rarely I see anybody having an on-premise solution. So it will be very easy for you to collect the data and integrate from your application to the utility application provider. Okay, and other than collecting the data from your manufacturing system, definitely 50% of the data has to come from ERP as well. Okay, so without the ERP data, it is very difficult for the big data analytics to be completed in all aspects. So, which means it will be better for your your ERP to be on the cloud, so that it will be easy for them to integrate with the other application providers.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. Mr. Gopi, some nuggets from you here on this topic, which I just asked as the question about analytics and the data utilizing, when you deploy SAP on cloud, how does that help?
Yeah, surely. See, when you look at the overall our cloud strategy or anything else, already they mentioned very clearly, our biggest pain, not only as everybody's biggest pain, is the storage. Because storage is going to be a biggest nightmare for everyone, and virtual cloud only can solve it quickly. Because we cannot invest and we cannot put a procurement, and in the COVID situation, you cannot even enter the data center. So it is
Right.
best to go ahead in such a situations. And there is similarly any extensive, any other additional and certain benefits, like if your office is running and only 16/5, you can shut down the services, or snooze mode. Now they come up with a new concept. So you can snooze it without power down. At least you can, data will not flow, even though data is in oil, you say. So all these things happening in that way. So it is important to move ahead on that, which is the benefit for everyone.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Atul, little different question here, but very relevant in context of understanding this aspect. What do you think are the key challenges faced in the on-prem based SAP ERP application? So if you can share your views on that.
Can you please repeat the question, Vivek?
Sorry, I will be repeating it. Key challenges faced in an on-prem based SAP ERP application.
Okay. Okay. So I think I give you an example which we faced during this COVID-linked lockdown period. And at the very outset of this lockdown, we experienced a hardware failure in one of the devices which was linked with the S4HANA setup. And during this period, every state, every district had its own version of lockdown controls. Okay.
Yes.
And though we had built-in redundancies in the system, but still we had to get the replacement on priority, because you would only have a certain degree of redundancy. And even if you've got redundant systems, you have to build in and ensure that everything is up and running, so that you factor in any repeated failure. So getting the support from OEM, getting the replacement part, and getting the logistics to our data center for the replacement part was such a nightmare. And we were actually realizing that if this being the case, and if we had a problem wherein if the part was not available locally, then we would have been in big trouble, I would tell you. So this is one area wherein we find that where if we were to have a setup or an application hosted on cloud, we are assured that this is always on. We don't have to break our head that we'll have to take care of the air conditioning working, or the temperature profiles, whether the data center temperature is okay or not okay, humidity levels. We rather focus on the core business aspects rather than these nitty-gritties, which are very utility in nature. So I think that is one. Second, what we also find is that though we pay the maintenance fee for SAP, we paid the upfront perpetual license fee, still often we find that whatever application we use becomes dated, because there's a lot of effort which goes into doing a version upgrade or an update, and it's a very lengthy proposition. You have to involve the business users, you have to do testing, you have to do evaluation, and then you come out with that version. And then there are so many outputs. It could be the invoice or other outputs which are there. Everything has to be tested. So doing all that, those upgrades and all, it becomes a very tricky affair and a very lengthy affair. So that's another challenge which we face. And another thing, it's very difficult to comprehend that what kind of capacities, compute and in-memory storage, what kind of capacities you may need 3 years hence. It is very difficult to comprehend. So what happens is, whenever you buy on-prem infra, you tend to over provision it by 25-30% or more, and sometimes it gets utilized, or rather gets consumed fully, or sometimes it never gets it is not used optimally. So either way, it's a loss to the organization, because you get locked up with some hardware, and then if you go out and buy additional resources with maybe RAM, compute, it comes at a very nasty price point, because 3-4 years down the line, the complete system may be on the verge of obsolescence. So you're getting my point. Right. So these are a few points.
Given me some obvious benefits of reason for moving to cloud. You have kind of listed that in detail for me. I can get that very clearly.
Correct. And another thing which I also want to add here is that deployment cycle. If you want to go or use a cloud edition, it's far faster. While because no, if like in our case when we migrated to S4 HANA, we had to request our hardware partner to temporarily provision a server for us to create a sandbox system, because the import, hardware import, delivery, installation would have taken at least 1.5 to 2 months. So we wanted to cut down on the implementation time, which we actually did in 3.5 to 4 months with KPMG, who was the implementation partner for us. So we did it, but then all these workaround things we need to figure out
Absolutely. Some of the real examples that were shared, I'm sure it's going to be very valuable for everybody.
Yeah.
Now from a moderator, I will move to a school teacher, okay, for my final question, because I have run short of time. And when I ask this question, I will ask every panel speaker to give me 2 factors, so 1 and 2, so that I get 8 unique ones. Sorry for being that teacher, but my question is very simple, which is that for those who have moved SAP on cloud, or applications on cloud, we spoke about the process, the engagements required, the role of the vendor, how you do it, key elements and all that. But my question is, if I have to list down what are the benefits that I got out of it, the real life examples, okay, what could be 1 and 2 that I would like to list down? I will start with Mr. Gopi. Mr. Gopi, if you can hear me.
I think it's we are talking about the manageability. That is the overall centrally you have to manage it. So all these things you will get it in a single piece, so you can manage it much better actually. And second is, of course, when we look at the overall 5-year optimizations on, we can reuse our entire force into some other different purpose actually. That is the beauty of that. We are running a big army, and to run managing, even network, port, SAN, switch, that it is a micro level, and we have to do hundreds of activity. That will reduce drastically in a way. Manageability, it will get better, and optimizations getting much better.
Okay, Mr. Srinivasan, your views?
Yeah, my views first is ease of integration with other application vendors who are already on the cloud. And second is it is ease of having your security in place. Because as I said earlier on, we go for ISO certification for our IT, the infrastructure, entire IT. So there, if your ERP is on a cloud, I think to a large extent some of the security angle is taken. So I feel for on a security aspect and for the ease of integration with other applications.
Okay, fine. Mr. Jayanta, your views?
As the application integration and compliance part has already been shared, I would only mention about removal of my headache on the end of life.
Okay.
So no thought of refresh.
Okay.
And agility and the ease of provisioning. So these come quickly in my mind when I think of cloud benefits. Other things, of course, my colleagues and friends have already shared. So those are definitely there.
Yeah. Mr. Atul, if you want to give us something here in terms of additions.
I think I think I have just one point to add here. So I think with a cloud-based system, the tech and the business domain teams of companies, like including ours, we can focus on the real business outcomes and issues rather than having to deal with the hassles of associated IT infra and the resources required to manage all that. And we can focus on innovating and growing our business rather than doing all these mundane stuff. So I think that's one big advantage we get beyond what the panelists have also already mentioned.
Okay, that's amazing. I mean, you have added one more interesting insight into my list that I was just drawing, and we have 7 valuable inputs from all the panel speakers. So thank you all panel speakers for being with us for so much time and sharing your thoughts. This was, I must admit, this was one of the most amazing conversation that I have come across, and the thoughts that I got from all of you has added to my knowledge, and I have no doubt that it has added to the knowledge of delegates who are there with us and are patiently listening to the entire conversation. With this, I will hand it over to Nehal to take things further and let me know if I'm supposed to start Q&A now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You may please start the Q&A. I suppose Ritesh has shared the questions with you.
Yeah, thank you, Nehal. So,
yes.
You know, one question which has come up and it's very generic, so I'm sure everybody can add some input here. And maybe some part of it is already spoken. But one by one, starting from Mr. Atul, I will like to know some basic inputs here about, like the question is, what is the major challenges in digital transformation? Somebody has asked this question. So please help, understand. This is the most asked question these days, right from LinkedIn, Facebook to Twitter. I find it everywhere.
I think the biggest challenge is the seat of the CIO is the biggest challenge, because most of the CIOs or the tech heads in organizations, they have actually they have actually matured from being a network administrator or a server administrator in their earlier avatar. And now with these fancy designations like the CIO or the CDO or the CTO, I take myself also in that ambit. It actually doesn't change your mindset. So we may keep talking about digital transformation, but I think more than digital, you have to first think about business transformation. That's important. And then you figure out where in that journey of business transformation can digital add value. It cannot be that you have a digital solution, you come and you start looking for problems. It's the other way around. You have to have an understanding of the business issues, the context of that, and then apply digital if you think it is right. Not everything gets solved with digital alone. That's my limited point.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gopi, quick additions from you here.
See, technically, digital transformation is nothing but a business transformation. So it is, if you ask me, IT role maybe 10% of enablers, 90% is a purely business story. As long as business buying, business investor, business stakeholders, and we are able to deliver as per the business requirement, we are through. So it's all is a business. Actually, previously, whatever the migration we done it for HANA, suite and everything, the owner is a CFO. Because IT become part of CFO. That's how we played.
Okay, fine. Mr. Jayanta, your views quickly here.
My co-panelist spoke my mind actually. So in digital transformation, we are very much bogged down by the word digital. So please forget digital. When you think of transformation, first think of transformation. What transformation you can bring in and make it smarter.
Okay.
Okay. So first the change management. What change? What transformation? And how better and smarter my business can be with that. And with that thought, then you think about what technology, what techniques, digital or whatever, can enable you. That comes later. There are ample options and partners and organizations who can help you in that. But the first is making your organization ready for the transformation, the change management. People, stakeholders, they should be ready.
Right.
And then the digital. So the main challenge it would be people and process. Technology is not at all the challenge.
Okay, that's completely different perspective that I got both from you and from Mr. Gopi. Thank you for that. And Mr. Srinivasan, if you can add something more to this.
Yeah, I think go with what Jayanta says. So the first thing is that's what we also do. The business process reengineering is very key. Without doing a proper business process reengineering, if you go for digital transformation, you will end up doing more of same. So the key for entire thing is you need to carry out a proper business process reengineering of your processes and arrive at the map. That mapping is very important. So you arrive at a final process map. Like what are the identified process, what are the new process, and what are the process which has been eliminated. And once you arrive at the final process map, then you can target the digital transformation. And again, after doing the business process reengineering, you should have a proper metrics. So only then you can measure what is the value your digital transformation is provided to your business. So have your metrics in place and do your business process engineering. then you can start your digital transformation. That's not
Okay, thank you for that. Mr. Sashi, if you can hear me, I have a technical question which I would like to ask you. Can you hear me, Mr. Sashi?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that. I've got a question, which is what is the roadmap for taking SAP ECC and to S4 SAP HANA having Sybase as database?
So if you take typically from a simplistic standpoint, Sybase from whatever databases you are running, and I'm talking from a cloud perspective, Sybase is also supported on the cloud, right? Primarily, what you need to require from a roadmap perspective is it is not just the database, right? That you're moving to the cloud. You have to figure it out that your current version of SAP is ported and exported onto the cloud, and then you change your database, right? Primarily. It sometimes do happen that some of your databases may not be supported on a certain cloud, right? There you will need to find that information. But other than the versions, generally Sybase should be supported on all clouds, including Google, and you can do and change. That would be the path to a Sybase migration.
Okay, okay. Thank you for that. I think the person who would asked this question would have got the answer that he was looking at. Thank you so much for that. With this, I will hand it back to Nehal to take the proceedings further from here.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing your views. Very informative session, and I hope our delegates have had some truly takeaways from this session. Thank you so much. Special thanks to Mr. Sharma for summarizing the entire panel discussion and duly helping us in answering the relevant questions raised by our attendees. Before we move forward, let me remind you to know more about SAP services offerings, contact KPMG team at Rajiv Pandey at kpmg.com. With this, we bring today's virtual conference to an end. Today's session wouldn't have been a success without the active participation of all our esteemed speakers, panelists, and delegates. I would like to thank each and every one of you for taking out time and being a part of this virtual conference today. A special thanks to Google Cloud and KPMG for the support in this initiative, without whom this conference wouldn't have been possible. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.